Senator Chuck Grassley has announced that a skinny form of the farm bill that was supposed to be enacted 2 years ago is going forward. Many in the Make America Healthy Again movement are focused on this new legislation because of how it will impact the country's food supply. Maha cares about this because the movement believes that America's food is basically poison. And now there's a University of South Florida study showing that junk food hypercharges colon cancer after many years of being consumed. For her part, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, someone not known, as being part of the Maha movement, has been consistently supportive of what she calls the small farms agenda for her department. Now, this is a 10-point program that her team created at the start of the Trump administration that would, in effect, prioritize and promote small farmers over the big agricultural mega producers, where so many of these toxins in our food supply are from. Here's RFK Jr. from a recent interview with Dr. one last year, explaining why our food policies need to be drastically reformed.
Insurance companies, you would think, would want us healthy, but they actually make more money if we get sicker. And then, of course, the pharmaceutical companies, if you have a chronic disease, you're a lifetime patient. This drug, Ozempic, costs $1,500 for a week. And there's now a bill before Congress that would force the insurance companies, Medicare, to pay for it for every American who's obese. Well, that's 74% of our population.
Right.
That's going to be $3 trillion a year. And for a tiny fraction of that, you could give every American 3 meals a day of organic food, and diabetes would disappear overnight.
We're joined now by Steve Jarvis. He's a fifth-generation regenerative farmer who is also leading a leading figure in the Maha movement. He comes back to us for the second time this week, and he has some breaking news because, Steve, you just got the opportunity to meet with a very important person in not only the Maha movement, but also now the Trump administration, and that is HHS Secretary RFK Jr. Tell us about this meeting, what you all discussed. I can't wait to hear about it.
Well, let me just tell you, I mean, since I've been to D.C. and spoke, having a meeting with the secretary is very, very difficult. He's a very busy person and there's a lot going on. And I've been trying to meet with him face to face. I had no idea that he was going to. I mean, I got a message about a month ago and said, okay, we're scheduling, we're coming to your farm. I said, now, when you pray and you ask God for something, like I need to get in front of someone, well, sometimes he answers prayers way more so than you're actually even asking for. So RFK came on the farm yesterday. It was a wonderful visit. He is a great man, y'all. I'm telling you, he's a good guy. And listen, he's in a big battle and there's a lot going on. And I'm going to encourage you. I mean, he is about healthy foods. And one of the big points that we talked about yesterday is we were in my potato field and he said, you don't use any herbicides? I said, no, I don't use any pesticides. I don't use Roundup. I don't use anything. And he knows that the small farm movement. So he has my farm plan. He has it himself now. So he's excited about that. We're probably going to call this the Farm Corps, like the Army Corps of Engineers. We'll set this all up. The Farm Corps, we're going to work. He's going to encourage the states to do this state by state by state. And then we'll help farmers develop. And because he knows that good food comes from smaller farms, and then I have the processing centers, and we have all that down my farm bill. And listen, folks, I just want to encourage y'all, don't complain and get involved in this, because can you imagine November the 9th of last year, God woke me up and told me to write this farm plan. Can you imagine what if I'd have been disobedient? What if I had not done all the way? We're not even back to November 9th, and I already had the secretary, come to my farm yesterday, and he listened to me. He visited with me, and he also liked my dogs.
That's cute. He liked your dog. What are your dogs' names?
So I'm a Vizsla breeder. It's hashtag Steve Jarvis Vizslas. So, and I'm big time shadow banned because I talked about don't vaccinate your dogs about a year and a half ago, and that got me in a lot of trouble. So, we talked about aluminum in the soil, and also who was there came to my farm was Dr. Ryan Cole. Because Dr. Cole and I have teamed up, and I have 100 top doctors. I actually have a list here of some of the top doctors in the United States who are getting behind my Mystic bill. And one of the main things is we don't consent to be sprayed over us with anything, and aluminum is one of the big ones because September, there's a big announcement about autism coming out. So what's interesting is Dr. Cole and I are on the same page. He's talking about aluminum in the vaccines. I'm talking about aluminum in the air and the soil. So, if you have good food, this is huge. If you want to make America healthy again, you got to get rid of aluminum. And that's what Secretary Kennedy took the state plan. He took it back to DC. He said, we think we could do something through HHS as well.
That's really, really great news. I actually know a little bit about how this meeting came about, and it's just a wonderful story. My next question I did want to ask you, Steve, because you went viral, okay, in the last month when you talked about the weather modification and the geoengineering, the seeding that was going on in Texas prior to the flood that had a lot of casualties at Camp Mystic. I've been talking to a lot of people that are from that area, and it's just so devastating, right? And people want answers, and they want to know if this was caused by some kind of cloud seeding or weather modification event, and then they'd want, if so, that not to happen anymore. How much did you discuss this particular issue that we can now talk about with the Secretary? Weather modification, geoengineering.
Yeah, we talked about it in depth because it's number one in my farm plan. I mean, he has my farm plan, and he also has my bill to stop weather modification in all 50 states. But number one in my farm plan is to stop weather modification. That's why I'm in this big fight. And I have all the documents. I have everything that any state senator or House representative, I have all the answers. I can tell you why. There are 6 levels of this geoengineering the weather. And so much of it is there's no regulations on it. That's one of the big problems.
There is no regulations because people have been acting like for years it just didn't even exist. That there's no such thing, and that anybody that talked about it was a crazy tinfoil, card-carrying conspiracy theorist. But again, here we go. Check in the column for conspiracy theorists right again. So, of course, there was nothing done about it because you weren't even allowed to talk about it. How confident are you feeling that the Secretary is going to address this? I mean, he's been getting slammed by the MAHA movement. Let's not lie, right? For the mRNA jab still being on the market, people feel like there should be movement much quicker on the childhood vaccines and the mRNA quote-unquote vaccines. How do you feel now having a personal interaction with the Secretary?
Well, I'm 100% confident that he's going to do something. And this is what I want to educate your public. This is so important, y'all. Secretary Kennedy, RFK, he is the poster child for MAHA, right? But let's face it, he does not have complete control over the USDA, the FDA, and the EPA. And I personally believe that there are people in those groups that are trying to make Secretary Kennedy look bad. I do. And they undermine him. And so here, if you hear about a new shot or whatever, well, he said no fluoride. Well, then EPA led Lee Zeldin says, yeah, we're putting fluoride back. So you see what I'm saying? It's not his fault. And so you got to quit saying, I told you. And please, people, stop sending me messages. Oh, he's the same thing. He's no good. Stop complaining. I'm 100% positive because I've written a plan, and I believe it's important that you write a plan down. And I believe it's important for you to have leadership who can lead in these plans and tell you what to do. Stop asking your senators and your House representatives of your state, stop asking them to do things and tell them what you want. You don't consent people to spray over it. And Secretary Kennedy agreed with me. You on the state levels, this is where we win this weather modification. We win it on the state levels. And stop messaging me and say, well, the states only have thing of the plane has to land, folks. We're not talking about 400 feet. Planes don't stop at 400 feet in the air. They land. And we don't have police that can pull planes over in mid-sky. I'm just saying.
Right. And there's also probably other agencies that factor into this, right? It doesn't just come through the Health and Human Services Agency. It's not just. These are other government agencies that only, RFK only has so much within his power, right, of the agencies and the entities that he does oversee. And as you said, there's, it's not like he has full operational control of the FDA. I love these pictures of you all, by the way. You can tell I'm sure RFK really appreciated getting out of the swamp and getting onto your lovely farm. I know this was, more than just an educational visit and to talk to you and gain some perspective. I think for him, this is probably a much needed getaway, which he did just go on vacation. Let's not, I guess, but I know he very much enjoyed it. What is the next step? How is this going to progress, Steve?
Well, the next step is that what we're going to do is there were a ton of legislators who came from Idaho as well. So we had Dr. Ryan Cole. We had a lot of other doctors that wanted to be here. We had tons of other legislators, senators, and House representatives. That came. They are interested. They're ready to look at. They're ready to look at my. We're going to go to a hearing. That's what's going to happen next. And I'm going to throw down and I'm going to show the senators and the House representatives here in Idaho. And let me just say this: I want you to realize that 12 days ago, I wasn't even focused on Idaho at all. I've been working in 5 other states, working with them because I know that there's people there in those states that the governor, the attorney general, there's a lot of senators and House representatives that are on the right path to fix this stuff from stop and spring. And now, 12 days later, not only do I have senators and House representatives, but Dr. Cole lives in Idaho. He was here. And then we have Secretary Kennedy coming on farm. This is huge. The next step is, and then I'm meeting next week with another governor. I won't say the state I'm going to meet. I'll be meeting with him. It's going to be huge.
Well, you know what? I can't wait to find out who that governor is. And this is huge. And I love how you encourage each person to get involved, because that is what it takes. You and Dr. Cole. Dr. Cole is such another superstar, has been such an outspoken voice, highlighting the problems we have with the vaccines in particular. And yes, you have met in a common interest with the contamination of aluminum in, vaccines and food. This is huge. This is huge.
It's huge.
And I just love those pictures. I love that. And this is what is going to move us forward. And I love what's happening, Steve. I know you can't tell us the governor yet, but I know you're going to keep us informed so that we can tell our audience. And I bet there's some members of our audience who are in that very state, and we'll be excited to see you there, Steve. So keep us posted. We'll keep covering this. We keep asking about it on the Hill. And this is fantastic. Thanks for bringing this to us first, right here at LindellTV.
Well, let me tell you, you broke the news, but I got to tell you something, the nice side of Secretary Kennedy. I said, you ready to go to my potato field? He said, can I see your dogs first? So
I love that. Yeah, he is very personable, very personable.
He's a good guy.
There are other people on his staff that were probably excited to come out and see your dogs too. I know that was just a very nice work day for everyone. And now the work continues to take it to the rest of America and make America healthy again. Thanks, Steve. All right, yesterday, sitting around, minding my own business, attacking Susie Wiles on X, when all of a sudden I noticed that a particular senior advisor for a particular agency, the CIA, slid into my DMs. Now, I was expecting some friendly tip or a nudge in the right direction related perhaps to the bombshells released by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard this week, confirming that a former sitting president, along with the help of the intelligence community at large, had in fact conducted an attempted coup to take out his predecessor on false claims of foreign collusion. One would assume that the senior advisor of the CIA would be concerned about the number of traitors who participated in said coup that remain in the intelligence community, such as one April Doss. Doss remains a top lawyer of the National Security Agency after having been quietly appointed to that position in 2022. Doss literally was a key player in the Russiagate plot because she was literally paid by Senator Mark Warner to tie Trump to Russia. According to this article by Luke Rosiak, Doss celebrated that, quote, at long last, Trump had been banned from all social media when his Twitter account was suspended due to pushing, she said, a big lie and a deadly January 6th, quote unquote, insurrection. She mocked those objecting to the intelligence state abuses of Trump aides, according to Luke Rosiak. Sneering, he wrote, but Carter Page, but Michael Flynn. And she is the top lawyer still under the Trump administration at the NSA. Let that sink in for a moment. But alas, that isn't why this senior advisor reached out to me. In fact, he showed minimal concern when I pointed out this particular viper in his den. No, he actually didn't even respond to that concerning bit of news at all. In fact, he was much more concerned about this particular tweet of mine. My tweet makes his boss look bad because I point out the obvious. I point out that President Trump called the coup plotters traitors, has literally said publicly, from the Oval Office no less, that Obama et al. Are guilty of treason. But it's obvious that many of Trump's officials, including the CIA director, don't really want indictments at all. And instead of being busy trying to find the remaining snakes, instead of being busy also investigating and revealing who is behind our corrupt elections and their ties to the agency in which the senior advisor serves, this particular person, this senior advisor to the CIA director, is taking the time to DM me on X, saying essentially that I'm a mean person and that I'm not acting very Christian-like. Again, let that sink in. We're still in the middle of a coup in the intelligence community. This story, my friends, is just one example of how much of a clown show our intelligence community is, and the so-called Republican leadership in place now, Tulsi Gabbard excluded, okay? She's a rock star. But this is what most of these people at the CIA and the FBI that are supposedly on our side are busy doing instead of draining the swamp. But I'll tell you, the communist revolutionaries still embedded in the deep state are not clowning around. And that's the absolute truth. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you would know that President Donald Trump found himself in a bit of hot water after he attempted to downplay the significance of releasing the Epstein files. After receiving backlash, as you can see from this Truth Social post here, the president ordered his Attorney General Pam Bondi to release all Epstein files that her department was sitting on. You know, the files that back in February Bondi claimed were sitting on her desk, literally waiting to be released. But this woman right here, a Florida judge named Robin Rosenberg, has declined the DOJ's request to release the Florida federal grand jury files on Jeffrey Epstein. She's an Obama-appointed judge, as I bet you already figured out. But more importantly, she's married to a man named Michael McAuliffe, who most coincidentally was the Florida state attorney who presided over the 2008 case in the Sunshine State, which resulted in Jeffrey Epstein's first indictment. A very bizarre, very soft indictment and subsequent house arrest. As a reminder, at the time, Epstein was accused of being a child sex trafficker, but oddly enough, was only charged with 2 counts of prostitution, which carried a much, much lighter penalty. Our next guest, a former CIA contractor and current host of Investigate Everything on thedailyclout.io, Brian O'Shea, says that there is an inherent conflict of interest for Judge Rosenberg because of her husband's involvement with the Epstein case, and that very well may be a cover-up afoot. Welcome back, Brian O'Shea, to the show for this exclusive. This is huge. I saw this and I'm like, of course there's a conflict of interest. Of course she should have recused herself, but alas, Judge Rosenberg did not tell us about this.
On again, and I think you're a very good Christian, by the way. So
Thanks
the
for that, Brian.
yeah, no problem. So I was checking it out. I just saw this head. I didn't even know this happened, that he was turned down. But what ended up happening was I saw that she got refused, and I was thinking, okay, why would anyone at this point refuse to unseal it? It's the Democrats that have been screaming, open the files, yet here you have this left-wing judge who I think currently is down on the West Palm Beach bench saying no. Well, what caught my attention were 2 things: the West Palm Beach connection and the Palm Beach County connection. Okay. And also the fact that as I was reading through all of these articles, a lot of the articles were not mentioning the specific location where she is a judge in Florida. I found that strange. So I looked into her, and then just on a whim, I just looked at her husband. Who was her husband? You always look at the spouse. And turns out it's this Michael McAuliffe. Now, there's very little about him, which I find extremely odd. And just a quick adjustment, he didn't preside over the 2008 case. What's worse, and I'm glad you brought that up, is he actually was the Florida state attorney of Palm Beach County from 2009 to 2012, which is almost the entire span of Epstein's house arrest and his probation. Probation, on while he was on it, he was flying back and forth to Little St. James's Island, because some judge down there had allowed him to go anywhere he wants as long as he's back in 24 hours. Now, that would have had to been approved by Michael McAuliffe, Judge Rosenberg's husband. It was during that time that Jeffrey Epstein was on probation, going all over places like Boston, going to New York, going to St. James, that a lot of his crimes took place. So when I saw that, I'm like, doesn't she have to recuse herself? I didn't even see any mention of her at all in that relationship, and no one was talking about it. So I trashed my other show for the night. I was up all night, wrote it up, got it out by 8 o'clock, and did a show on it last night. And I got to tell you, Emerald, I'm really angry about this. I'm really angry about it.
Yeah, and everyone should be, right? Because the whole problem is the lack of transparency, and this only furthers the speculation, or I don't even think it's speculation anymore. It's just obvious, of the cover-up. This is yet more evidence of the cover-up and how extensive it is. And just to clarify, you wrote this for Substack, so people can go to your Substack and see what you have found from your deep dive into this judge and her husband. So I encourage everyone to do that. And as for Michael McAuliffe, Brian, Judge Rosenberg's husband, he's got some shady things behind him too, right? Like, for instance, he was dramatically fired from his newest job at the Koch Institute. There's a name we all know. And
that
physically
Oxbow
removed
Energy
from
job.
the property.
Yeah.
I mean, and they wanted him out within 60 seconds. I mean, they wanted him out quickly. What went on there?
Well, that's the thing. Nobody knows. But what I want to point out about that, so that company, I think it's Oxbow Energy, is owned by Bill Koch, who's the third brother that no one ever talks about, also a billionaire. Okay. So what's weird about this is that Michael McAuliffe left his elected position before his term was up to go take that job. And then he subsequently got fired. They cited that he wasn't loyal or something like that. But look, we've all been in corporate America. It's just like the intelligence community. You got to do something pretty bad. If you get fired, security escorts you out the door with your Xerox box, and within 24 hours, like they did, his name is erased from every website. Every website. And then this guy crawls back to his job. He goes back to the state attorney job, and is going to run again. But then when he finds out that there's someone running against him, he decides, you know what? I'm not going to run. And then that's it. And now he's an author.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That was the next thing I was going to bring up. He wrote a fictional book, so he's a fiction writer as well. But the title is bizarre and telling, because the title of the book is, quote, "No Truth Left to Tell." Tell us about the book, Brian.
Well, it's a period piece, about a
I do
man
love a
getting
good
out
period
of the world.
piece. I would probably like it.
So, I started reading the back, and it's not really a good book. He's not going to be the next John Grisham. But I will say that it's just so ironic that this guy, who appears to have a lot of truths to tell, wrote a book called No Truth Left to Tell. And so what I want to see is his wife recuse herself so we can look at those grand jury files, okay? And, then we'll decide if there's no truth left to tell. But the thing is, it was after his time. That's the thing, is right after his time. So he's not going to be in them. These grand juries happened between 2005, 2007. Or is he? Or is someone that put him in that office going to be? Is Bill Koch going to be in those? He did pluck him out of his office before his term was over. Is the wife in there? And so that's what we need to know. And I don't know, but that's what we need to find out. She needs to recuse herself, Judge Robin Rosenberg, and we need to get to the truth. And these files need to be unsealed. And Emerald, let me say one more thing. Pam Bondi, she knew this guy. Okay, she was AG of the state while he was the state attorney for the county. And that's the most powerful, richest county almost in Florida. Why did she not call this out? She would have, look, I'm a good investigator. It took me 45 minutes to an hour to find this out while I was on my iPhone walking my dog. Okay, so if I can find that out, why didn't she mention this? Why didn't she raise the red flag? Why didn't anyone mention this? And that's what I want to know as well. Pam Bondi, do you know this guy? And do you know there was a conflict? I don't know. It's just not looking good to me how her conduct is going.
That's an excellent question that she must be asked. And we can actually email the DOJ and ask them that question. And hopefully when she makes her next public appearance, or I doubt they'll ask that question of her when she appears on Fox for the whatever 100th time today. She needs to be asked that question. That's an excellent point, Brian. She already knew these people, so she should have known right then and there that this was going to be problematic, and the judge, even before issuing this kind of opinion, should have recused herself, given the obvious conflict of interest that you found really quickly, even though you are an excellent investigator and the host of Investigate Everything. It didn't take you that long. But that's the problem here, right? It seems that these people in place in the agencies, and it gets back to the story I told just before this segment, they're not real concerned about that, right? They're not real concerned about rooting out the compromised people, the coup plotters, the swamp creatures. They're more concerned about probably you and I pointing out that they're not doing that. So I know you heard my story. What do you make of the senior advisor at the CIA taking all this time? I mean, it was back and forth for hours yesterday, okay? It wasn't just a quick message here and there. It was lengthy responses, but not responding to what are you all going to do about this Obama attorney at the NSA who was involved in perpetuating the Russiagate hoax and was paid to try to present ties between Donald Trump and Russia that were not there. They were false. I mean, I think it's concerning if a senior advisor is reaching out to me just for that tweet and spending so much time.
Well, you are a DC insider currently living in a lovely place you like to refer to as Swamp Gardens. But the thing is, with that, I had actually the same response from a person I brought into the intel community that's still there. He pulled up a 2022 tweet of me going after Zelensky and said, it was wild. He said he wouldn't be my friend anymore if I kept posting stupid stuff like that on his X. And I'm like, what are we, 3? And so I jokingly said, are you talking about Rod Stewart or Zelensky? I'm not sure. But the point is, look, I think what's happening here is the CIA in particular, they've got a great gig going. They love it when people say, oh, is the CIA involved in some domestic op? It's not. And the reason why is because all of their money that they make, either legally or illegally, that's all overseas. They've got the whole fiefdom over there. And so when we start looking into that, you're not only going to see a lot of USAID money going right through there, as we've already seen, but you're going to see a lot of wasteful spending. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is if I'm a case officer, I go out to East whatever stand, okay, and I say, hey, I got this great asset. His name is Puck, okay? No one knows if this guy exists. But I go back, I sit down, I make my case, I say he could be your asset. They issue me cash to pay him because I say, oh, he'll only work for $10,000 a month. And Puck is going to get about $5 a month and a 6-pack of beer. and the rest of that money is going in my pocket. So the point is, it's going to reveal a whole bunch of skullduggery. But I would also urge people with the Epstein case, be careful, about wanting, making big noise about wanting something from the CIA. Because I could tell you right now, everything there is got something called a crypt. Okay, so if I'm an asset, if Jeffrey Epstein's an asset, there's not going to be one file in there that says their name. Okay, there'll be hard copies. Those will be gone and shredded by the time inspectors come. But every cable, every report is going to have a crypt or a code name for that asset. And that's the reason they do it. And every case officer is going to have a pseudonym. I had 7.
To avoid actually finding the FOIAs too, right? You don't know what code name. You'd have to find the code name to know what to look for. And even if they even still exist, if they're not been shredded.
Or a good savvy lawyer can simply say name and all AKAs, including crypts, historical crypts. So that's what I would do.
A savvy lawyer who perhaps is talking to someone like you to tell them exactly where to look. Ryan O'Shea, the host of Daily Clout, to investigate everything. This is fascinating. We'll ask the DOJ. I hope that we'll see how this proceeds and what action they take given the conflicts of interest of Rosenberg, if they do at all. And if they don't, I mean, that's very telling with it in itself, is it not, Ryan O'Shea? It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for having me on.
Up next, there's a big scandal brewing inside the Southern Baptist Convention, but it's not over what you might think. It's actually over the takeover of small conservative churches by more liberal elements. We have that story after this commercial break.
Swollen limbs, joint pain, inflammation, skin aging, and cognitive decline. These are just a few of the awful side effects that you can experience due to poor blood circulation. And popping ibuprofen is not a solution to the pain. It's only temporary relief, and it's only masking the true problem, which is inflammation. Researchers are saying to add this Antarctic super nutrient to your diet. I'm talking about omega-3 fatty acids, but not just any form of omegas. These particular omega-3 fatty acids are sourced from wild-caught krill. Has been shown to support healthy blood pressure, circulation, brain health, as well as reduce inflammation, swelling, and joint pain. For a limited time, you can grab Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil for up to 66% off plus free shipping. Just go to getkrill.com/Lindell right now to get your special offer. To celebrate Independence Day, All Family Pharmacy is having their biggest sale ever. It's a buy one, get one free on ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and mebendazole. These meds everyone's been asking for, and this is the place to get them. That means if you order 30 pills, you get 30 more absolutely free. Order 90, you get 90 free. No catch, no insurance, and with the doctor's prescription included. Look, everyone deserves access to the treatments that work and the freedoms to choose what's right for their health and their family. So if you've been meaning to stock up, now's the time. This buy one, get one free sale ends July 13th. So don't wait, get it now. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. Stock up and protect your family today. Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally. With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com.
According to our next guest, the documentary filmmaker John Harris, there's a big scandal brewing inside the Southern Baptist Convention regarding the takeover of small conservative churches by more liberal elements. Listen.
During our documentary research and investigation of the dangerous social justice phenomenon threatening the future of Western civilization, we came across the shocking, dramatic events that took place at First Baptist Church of Naples, Florida. As we thoroughly investigated this specific situation, we compiled empirical evidence of a national trend happening in both large and small Southern Baptist churches across the United States.
Joining me now is John Harris, the documentary filmmaker who made the film A Silent Takeover, which exposed the sinister practice. John, it's interesting to talk to you. Thank you for joining me. I actually watched your documentary, and I didn't know on the McLean Bible Church, because I used to go there until David Platt came in and changed everything. And I just said, something's not right about this guy, right? I just feel something's not right. And that kind of proved out, and we left the church. But I had no idea this was a systemic problem, I guess you could call it, right? That's happening all over the country. Explain.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Emerald, because this is, I think, the biggest story in evangelicalism of the year. And there's not a lot of people who seem to want to cover it, especially in evangelicalism, because these are some big players we're talking about. Of course, you mentioned David Platt, and I am very sorry that you had to eventually leave that church. But I'm glad that the truth came out, and others just like you have seen the same problems. The evangelical church is the conscience of the Republican Party, and you could say the conscience of the country. Without the Bible Belt, we would be like Europe, essentially. And so if you can destabilize the evangelical vote, then you can do a lot of damage. And I think that's exactly what's happening. You have the clips that you showed from Naples, from First Baptist Church of Naples, and the attempted takeover there. You just mentioned McLean Bible Church with David Platt. And of course, the latest one is this church, small church actually, in Knightdale, North Carolina, that had an attempted takeover from the Summit, which is a church pastored by a former convention president for the Southern Baptist, J.D. Greer. And in each case, I saw very similar things happening. You have a new leader of some kind, then you have a consulting firm come in and try to eliminate legacy ministries. This drives out the people who did have clout and were in charge of things and could have stood up to some kind of a takeover. They're gone. And then you bring in leaders that are loyal to you and shove through some innovative practices. And in this latest one of the things that probably your audience would be interested in is even getting rid of patriotic symbols like the American flag, because it's seen as offensive. So this is a new kind of church that doesn't have the traditional elements we would associate with church, like choirs and formal gatherings with wearing formal attire and these kinds of things. This is seen as a relic, and we should bring in these innovative practices like multi-site campus churches where you watch a pastor on the screen. You don't really have community like you did before. It's very similar in my mind to what happened when the managerial revolution came to retail. Like you have your Walmart, let's say, come into town and put out the mom and pop. So that's the kind of thing that's happening in the evangelical church, and there's a leftist agenda behind it.
Well, that was my next question. Who exactly is behind it? Obviously, it's the leftist agenda, but there must be some kind of organized funding or mechanism, infrastructure there that's pushing this because, as you noted, it's North Carolina, it's the DMV, the greater DC area. It's all the way down to Naples, Florida. So who's behind it, John?
That is a good question. And if I was able to share other stories that aren't on camera, then I could give you a lot of other geographic locations. I went to a Southern Baptist seminary, and it's very in keeping with what I was trained in my seminary to do, which is to diversify churches, to look at a church like a community organization. And I've said this before, I think churches and the pastors going into them are primarily now community organizers. They're not really pastors. They see their duty as making the community different or better, or being a revolutionary force for getting rid of racial inequities and that kind of thing. And of course, that's not the purpose that I went to seminary, or pastors who care about the word of God go to seminary, but that's how a lot of pastors are coming out and they're being trained. So I think it's part of the mechanism that's just in a lot of modern seminaries. We do see these consulting firms. Oxano was the one in Florida. We saw another consulting firm come into the church that we just did a documentary of in Knightdale, North Carolina. And they seem to say similar things about diversifying leadership and taking out these ministries that were, things like the quilting ministry, where, older ladies come to fellowship and to participate in some kind of a ministry effort. That's got to go. Certain kids ministries and Sunday school and Awana, and they got to go. That's not part of what we're trying to do here. It's very odd. And, I wish I could tell you there's some kind of an account in the Cayman Islands, or it's George Soros or some kind of leftist billionaire. That's very possible that there's money going into these kinds of things. But I also think, regardless of whether that's happening or not, you have a lot of ministry leaders at the top of these denominations who think the key to success is to make sure that they use these innovative corporate models. And so I don't know that you even need leftist funding. It's just part of the rotating door of the managerial elites. They want to be liked by the media and by those in influential positions in academia and Hollywood and so forth. So it's just, there's a pressure at the top of these organizations to go left.
It's kind of sad they'd even take away the little old lady quilting circle. I don't know how much more unchristian-like you can get than that. Is it then, I just want to hone in on this. Is it ideological or is it financial? Because obviously there's this now corporate megachurch model that seems like it's quite lucrative on the outside looking in. Or is it both ideological and financial? Okay.
It's absolutely both. Yeah. And so in the Naples situation, we didn't have any discovery. So we don't know exactly what was being said by leadership. But in the situation in Knightdale and in McLean, we do actually have access to discovery. So we could see some of the things that leaders in these institutions were saying to each other and to lawyers and so forth. And what we found is that in McLean, where you were attending, David Platt, who is the senior pastor, one of the pastors there now, he really wanted some Southern Baptist Convention ties. And this was an independent church. It actually had a clause in their constitution. They could not affiliate with a denomination. Well, that was all was completely violated. And they decided to start sending money to the Southern Baptist Convention. And there is for lack of a better term, a pay-to-play kind of scheme in the North American Mission Board for the Southern Baptist. And we do have some suspicion, the record's a little incomplete, that David Platt was attempting to make their church one of the bigger donors. And in return, they were going to get either financial or some kind of clout in return for that from the denomination. It's the largest Protestant denomination, so there's certainly a lot of clout to dole out. In the latest case, in Knightdale, this was a situation where you had a smaller traditional church, non-denominational, same thing. They couldn't affiliate with a denomination according to their own constitution. And they got some leaders in there who were loyal to, I guess, the Southern Baptist Convention, and they tried to do a church dissolution. And then when that didn't work, they tried to do a bankruptcy move to get Summit Church, this huge mega church, to take it over. And Summit Church, I think, has around 12,000 members. This church had like 400, but they were sitting on a property worth about 25 to 30 million. And so Summit Church would have gotten this property by paying off the debts between $1 and $2 million they would have paid, and they would have received a $25 to $30 million property. So of course there is a financial incentive in all of this. They are able to get an asset that will be an extension of their church in Nightdale, even though now people are going to go watch a pastor on a screen that they can't have actual access to. You know, the previous pastor wrote birthday cards to everyone in the church, and they knew him. He was an actual shepherd. He was a pastor. And now they just get to see J.D. Greer from some far off location being broadcast in. That's the new model.
Yeah, it's and giving a more leftist interpretation of evangelicalism, I guess. Okay, I have more questions, so we're going to have to do another segment, but we're running out of time. It sounds like to me the SBC is more aiding and abetting this than trying to stop it. And look, there's the whole aspect of this you just touched on, the property value, because I mean, some of these places are sitting, I mean, look at McLean, I mean, it's sitting on prime real estate, okay? Very expensive properties. It's an important topic. It's not getting enough attention, so I definitely want you back, John, to do another segment. I loved your documentary on McLean Bible. I learned so much. I couldn't sleep one night, and I happened upon your documentary before we even had a discussion about you coming on. So this is wonderfully coincidental. So let's have you back and talk more about it. John, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Emerald. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Wireless radiation has biological effects, period. This is no longer a subject for debate when you look at PubMed and the peer-reviewed literature. These effects are seen in all life forms: plants, animals, insects, microbes. In humans, we have clear evidence of cancer now. There is no question. We have evidence of DNA damage, cardiomyopathy, which is the precursor of congestive heart failure, neuropsychiatric effects. So 5G is not a conversation about whether or not these biological effects exist. They clearly do.
Last year about the possible harmful effects of fifth-generation internet signals. In fact, as our friends at the Children's Health Defense Network reported earlier this year, quote, a study by the European Parliament called The Health Impact of 5G concludes that certain ranges of RF radiation probably cause cancer, particularly gliomas and acoustic neuromas in humans, clearly affect male fertility, possibly affect female fertility, and possibly have adverse effects on the development of embryos, fetuses, and newborns as well. Yet even now, under the Trump administration, the Federal Communications Commission refuses to allow for any official studies into the possible negative health effects of 5G signals on the human body to be conducted. Still, international media is starting to wake up to the possibility that 5G signals are harmful. In January, the Daily Mail reported that there was mounting evidence that the radiation from 5G signals was harmful to humans. And yet, the 5G so-called revolution continues, with massive 5G towers emitting pulsating radiation signals being built in the heart of the most populated cities in America. Our next guest is Corey Hillis. He is the president of EMF Solution Incorporated, and he's here to talk about the negative side effects of the signals our technology emits. Corey, it's nice to meet you. I'll just start out with my own anecdote. I tell people this because it was insane to me. My hands had been hurting me for close to a year, for several months. I mean, it was debilitating. By the end of the day, I was having to dictate to my producer, Dawn, titles for the end of the shows because I could no longer type or I thought I was developing carpal tunnel syndrome. I was getting ready to go to a doctor. When I mentioned it to a friend and she said, do you have the 5G turned off on your phone? And I had no idea what she's talking about. She walked me through it. She turned the 5G off on my setting on my iPhone and went back to LTE. It wasn't even 30 seconds, Corey. My hand stopped hurting. And I've had no problem since. Am I crazy?
No, you're not at all. We have developed products and solutions that help remediate this, protect people from this. We've proven it with tests on human cells and a number of different tests. So I don't believe you need to turn off the 5G. So I will say, I got to start off by saying this. I'm not against, I was the first in line to get a 5G phone. I'm not against the cell phone companies and the cell towers and Starlink and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all this stuff. all this radiation that is absolutely crushing people's health without them knowing it. And there's 10,000 studies plus that'll show you, and I can show your audience where to go and get some non-biased information really quick on the subject. But you're not crazy. When we remediate a home, the car, the phone, and all the gadgets in somebody's life, we literally get a testimonial like yours half the time. So this is not surprising that that happened to you whatsoever. Excuse me. 5G is just an addition. So power lines, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, all of this stuff has been harming us. 5G is just kind of taking it to a new level, which in a way is good because a lot of people are now waking up to it because it's hard to ignore anymore.
Yeah, I talk to people all the time who say they feel the effects, like the friend who helped walk me through turning it off on my phone. That I think probably some people are more sensitive to it, or they're just having better body awareness, right? But we are now inundated with it, and it's not going away. But obviously not, because DARPA is trying desperately, right, to get funding to catch up with China. And it's not just in the 5G internet development, but also now 6G internet development. So if we're having this kind of problem from 5G, then 6G is just going to take it to the next level, right? So what do we do? How do we, deter these negative effects in a world that is increasingly moving in that direction?
Let me explain something to the audience that they probably never heard, even if they're into the subject of EMF. So this is a nice picture. First of all, the top is the website, emfhometest.com. You can actually have one of our reps, if they're close enough to you, go test your cell phone, your home, see the levels, and then a free consultation to fix things is offered. And if you're not, if the person isn't close enough to drive to you, then they will give you a free consultation over the phone, because there's no way you're getting enough information in this call. But let me just show you the pictures that I have on this page. So do you see when somebody uses a cell phone, if they talk on a cell phone, their head's heating up. This bottom picture, their head heats up from the cell phone, okay? And this is with our chip. After a 10-minute call, the top one where it's not being heated. The bottom one is 10-minute call. You can see the white is the hottest and the red's the next hottest. That's what happens when you put a cell phone against your head. Now, let's talk about that heating, because it's not like being next to a radiator where you're going, I'm getting heated. A microwave oven heats by shaking and vibrating molecules, spinning them. They smash into each other 2.5 billion times a second. That's the frequency. This frequency, the smashing creates friction, and that friction heats your food inside a microwave oven. Fast forward to your Wi-Fi router. The same exact frequencies on your Wi-Fi router that's connecting to your cell phone, your tablet, your laptop, and all this stuff is using this frequency that you're being exposed to. So your router is basically a microwave oven in the corner without walls on it, okay? Now, the SAR rating that the FCC came up with is actually a good rating to rate the danger of EMFs on cell phones. All cell phones in the audience, everybody that owns a cell phone, which is probably everybody listening, the small print in your contract says that if you touch your phone, you're exceeding the safety guidelines set up by the FCC, okay? They say your cell phone is unsafe as soon as you touch it or get too close to it. So they're all saying it, they just couldn't get it in a big print, like on cigarette packs, it's in a big print, it may cause cancer. This has major implications to your health. Everybody in this audience is being majorly affected, whether you're sensitive or not, and I can go into that if we have enough time. But the cell phone is heating your head by shaking and vibrating molecules, spinning them and smashing them into each other inside of your head. That's not like a radiator heating you. That doesn't sound something good inside your head, does it? Now, maybe that was happening in your hands, and possibly that's the thing that you were getting sensitive to, because that's not, something you would want to have happen in your body, but that's what's happening literally inside your body with cell phone and other radiation.
We are running out of time, Corey, so I want you to go ahead and share exactly. You mentioned that there was a good place to go for non-biased information. Where do people go? And we'll definitely do more segments on this, but where do they go?
All this stuff is on emfhometest.com, but the bioinitiative.org is a great non-biased group, not bioinitiative.org. They're members from all over the world. They've been studying it for many years, decades, actually. They don't sell anything. They're not funded by anybody with an agenda, and they have over 4,000 studies. And if you go to that website and you add / the word conclusions, you will be taken to a page that summarizes 1,800 studies, and you can read for 5 minutes and your jaw will drop. And you'll say, holy cow, I better do something about this, because the good news is this is a fixable problem. I'm not against it because it can be fixed, but you need to educate yourself. And once you realize how intense this is and how horrible it is for your health and all the symptoms we didn't talk about that people in this audience have, the massive DNA damage, then you better find a good solution. And we're the only people that tested human cells and found that solution a certain way.
Fascinating. I'm definitely going to look more into it. We'll talk to you again soon about it. Corey Hillis, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I just want to take the opportunity to give a shout out to my mother, Reba. Happy birthday, Reba. Mama Reba. It is her birthday today. She is the best mother a girl like me could have. I love her very much. And that's the absolute truth. That's it for me. Allison Steinberg is next with DC Live, so stick around.